Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining today's LinkedIn Live, Connecting the Dots, how WMS-TMS collaboration drives supply chain efficiency. I'm John Monarch. I'm the CIO at Pesty. And today we're diving into a challenge that's front and center for a lot of supply chain leaders, and that's how to make warehouse and transportation systems work together seamlessly to keep operations running smoothly and efficiently, especially now in the era of API connectivity and just more automation. It's more critical than ever to make sure that they're talking in the right way. It's no secret that having great technology is only a part of the equation. Real results come when your systems, your teams, your processes, everything is connected. And that's exactly what a well-integrated WMS and TMS can deliver. To go into more detail about that, I'm joined by Mike Willey, sales executive and former project manager at SnapFulfill, and Ryan Camacho, who's the director of solution engineering at MyCarrier. Mike, Ryan, it's great to have you both here.
Thank you very much.
Great to be here.
So yeah, we'll just jump right in because we've got about 20 minutes on this. So on the first question here, Mike, from your perspective, what trends are pushing companies to prioritize this WMS-TMS connectivity today? How are changing customer expectations and e-commerce growth really influencing warehouse operations?
Yeah, thanks, John. I think you mentioned it. Customer expectations, is the type of trend that's causing our customers to come to the market for TMS WMS combination. Customers, they want delivery next day. They want it at next to no cost. And in order to properly support that for your customers, you need TMS and WMS working seamlessly. So that's why our customers are coming to us. There are rules, there are regulations, there's compliance considerations to deal with when you're shipping product. And in order to make the correct decisions and support physically those rules, you need WMS and TMS helping to standardize the work on the floor. And as you standardize that work, you bring that tribal knowledge off of the floor into a software that brings you to accommodating kind of the second trend that brings customers to TMS or WMS. And that is labor challenges, right? So it's hard to get good people. It's hard to keep them. So when you employ TMSs and WMSs that are user-friendly and can standardize work, you no longer need to have the best players on the floor. You need people that can do repeatable tasks, and that allows you to, add new employees, grow from one shift to two, or even one warehouse to multiple across the country. So those are the trends I think are driving our customers towards coming to have discussions with us about TMS, WMS together.
I imagine, especially as they get more sites specifically, it becomes more and more complicated and more necessary that those two systems really talk to each other.
Yeah, you need to, because your customers expect consistency. So in order to have consistency, you need to standardize the operations, and that's what these tools are doing.
So on that end, Ryan, on the transportation side, what challenges are companies facing today, and how can a connected TMS really help solve those?
Yeah, it's a good question, John. So as we talk to shippers out there, and as we talk to folks that are moving goods, and Mike touched upon a lot of these items, right, that directly correlate to the challenges. And a lot of them are manual entry, right? So manual processes. We have a lot of folks out there that we talk to that are still on spreadsheets. So they haven't really digitized the process. They haven't gone down the exploration of what that looks like. I've been in logistics for about 20 years, and we've seen this evolution of digital platforms being more digestible, more accessible to small and large companies. And so now that there's platforms out there that the common user, the common shipper, the common broker can kind of use, they're starting to look at that. But it's solving the problem around, I don't want to hire 10 people to do manual entry. So Mike touched upon the scalability, right? How do I scale faster and more efficiently? How do I cut down errors, right? If I have 10 people 10 keying shipment data into a WMS to a TMS, something's going to happen at some point, and those shipping mistakes can cost a lot. So a lot of it's the reducing the manual entry and automation of that data, both from a WMS to a TMS and then back from a TMS to a WMS, so that I can capture that data. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about data. I think the other part is really visibility. A lot of silos exist in these companies where warehouse is kind of talking to the transportation managers, and finance kind of knows what's going on, and they'll bring things up if they happen, and it's an email, it's a phone call, and it's a Slack message. So the silos of these departments across siloed platforms is really causing a pain. And people say, hey, this department doesn't know what that department's doing. I really need to get visibility, not only in my four walls, but to my customers. My customers want to know where my stuff's at, and I don't want to field 100 emails to kind of figure that out. So again, we talked about, Mike articulated that people want stuff shipped the same day. They want stuff, delivered in a few days. Really, Amazon's been pushing that. Everyone wants that effect. So that's the North Star everyone's pushing to, which is, solving that pain of customer support. And then I think specifically to where we really find a lot of pain is in the LTL automation side of things. LTL is generally pretty painful for companies. It's not like you have 2 or 3 carriers on the parcel side that you're working with. You could have 10 or 20 LTL carriers, right? It's a big network. There's regional players, there's national players. It's kind of hard to navigate that. So you could have a dedicated person that's just in charge of maintaining relationships, the rate tables. Do I have a manual tariff? Do I have to upload it? What accessorials are going to, cost? How is that changing with density rating? And everything's kind of going on the LTL space. It can be a complex piece. So people are trying to wrap their arms around it and leaning and looking to digital providers and connected digital providers to really solve those problems.
Yeah, and it's funny because the old adage in a lot of software is that your biggest competitor isn't other software systems, it's Excel. And it's making sure that people get out of that. And now with as complicated and as like quickly updating as things are changing, like you mentioned, ratings for LTL shipments, the rating standards and classifications just changed. So that's something that, a system like my carrier could take into account versus like people working in a spreadsheet. They're going to have to go update everything manually, and then it might get lost or something happens there.
Yeah, 100%. It's a growing pain. We've really partnered really strategically with our carrier partners to provide the most forward tech to them that's in line with the carrier tech, and we just hand that off to the shipper. We hand that off to the end user, and they're able to stay up to par and up to date with all of those changes. So they're not getting rebills and they're not getting mismatches with their invoices.
So, Mike, on companies that have successfully integrated WMS and TMS, what operational improvements are you seeing on the warehouse floor?
Yeah, on the warehouse floor, it typically you'd identify a couple different areas of improvement: accuracy and speed. Okay, so accuracy, it has to do with the sequencing of things, right? So as you're fulfilling an order, when you do employ, smart TMSs with a WMS that can control the work on the floor, you can move the decision for the carrier call down the line to the very end of the process, right? So that gives you some flexibility. It gives you an opportunity to create some cost savings at that decision point. No longer do you need to pre-manifest, print a bunch of labels for an order, hand them to someone, and they go out and pick those orders. What you can do now is pick them efficiently, drop those at an outbound area, make some better, quicker decisions on how you're going to get that product to your customers, and then maybe pack it in a certain way that accommodates those rules and regulations that we spoke about earlier. So, so accuracy would be the first place you could look at, right? So you're making better decisions at a later point in time. The other thing is speed. When you start again to standardize this workflow, all you got to do is turn up the volume a little bit, add more transactions to the mix, and your speed will cascade upon that. So turning on these systems, oftentimes you see some improvements right away, but then as you turn up the volume, your speed becomes much better and your accuracy maintains. Okay, so those are the two main points of emphasis when you're seeing improvements on the floor, and that turns into satisfied stakeholders of all types. Your customers are satisfied. They're seeing the correct product at their doorstep probably the next day. Your employees are happy. They're using the correct software and software that looks and feels natural to them. And, all the way down to like truckers, they come up to your warehouse. They're not spending a lot of time here. It's a well-run organization. They check in, they check out, and they're on their way. So it really does cascade itself all the way down to all stakeholders in the supply chain when you start to have connected solutions like this, and everyone sees the impact.
Yeah, and so many companies, I feel like they buy an ERP, right? And they think that that's going to be the end all be all solution for all of their problems. And then they quickly realize that that doesn't really work very well for scheduling the trucks or pick and pack or operations within the four walls. So that's where specialized systems like both the Snap Fulfill and a My Carrier come into play and can speak to those, but also at the same time make the whole thing like you both said, break down silos. So Ryan, how can integrating WMS data into a TMS improve that decision making for a transportation team?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a big impact, and it's a lot of requests that we get. Is they start off with they understand that again we talk about pain points. They understand that there's a pain point, and it really revolves around lack of data. So the data getting pushed back and forth between the systems is the key to solve a lot of those pain points. But it's how do we apply that, right? Applying that data back to those systems is fairly easy to do, but how do we prescribe solving the direct pain with that data that we're pushing back or pulling from the system? And that comes in different forms. And I think Mike talked a little bit about that, but it's generally visibility, where the warehouse team knows in their system now live when things were shipped or things that have not been shipped. It helps them get better instruction of what to do. Hey, these need to be packed. This has to go out the door. Our TMS is telling us that our cutoff for our carriers is 3 p.m. We need to get this stuff done, right? So it's more an informative, real-time data sync that allows different departments and operations to work seamlessly together. I think the other part is, accurate shipping data is going to lead to better routing and better decisions. So if I'm running a warehouse and I'm running the shipping team as well, looking kind of back in the rearview mirror and saying, hey, the last 6 months, these are the decisions we've made when it came to getting orders in, getting orders out, the carriers we selected and the costs that were associated with them. I can look at that retrospectively and make some analysis against what are my lanes looking like? When I ship to Florida and I ship these items, what does that cost look like? Who are the carriers I'm going with? Who's getting it there on time? So there's a lot of data that you can pull from both systems and you can see in both systems to mesh that up. The other side that a lot of customers want to look at is how does shipping affect the cost of my goods, right? So the costing of my goods, again, a lot of folks want to get to the point where they offer free shipping on their website, or from an e-com perspective, that's really the trend that a lot of folks are getting to because it's simple and that's what people expect. Well, those costs are generally baked into the cost of the goods, and getting a good handle on that data leads people down that path to understand, do I need to mark up my item by $25, 10%, whatever that looks like, to account for the shipping in these geographical areas? Without that data, you really can't do that exercise. So that's a big piece of it. And then again, Mike touched upon it, but we also are finding that folks are using data of trends of scheduling pickups, when the carrier is picking it up, when the carrier is delivering it, to optimize their four walls of their warehouse. Hey, we have to have picking done by this time so we can do this execution. We got to make sure we're staffing our warehouse for loading trucks because they're coming in at this time. We're going to spread that out so we can have a optimal labor force throughout the week, right? I don't need to hire these seasonal folks to kind of deal with the fluxes that I just didn't have data to understand where my flows are. I can kind of even that out, and I can better manage the folks in my warehouse to have a more smoothly ran operation. So I'd say those are a lot of the main pieces that rely on the data, and then how they execute against the data to improve and scale their business.
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, visibility is a word that keeps coming up, right? And that's that word is such a hot topic, but it means different things to so many different people. Like visibility to the CFO is not the same thing as visibility to an inventory manager, is not the same thing to a transportation manager, is not the same thing to a customer who just wants a dot on a map, right? And so it's kind of figuring out how to bring all of that together. And that's where these integrated systems really can provide that kind of almost all-encompassing visibility to everyone who really needs their specific set of, insights.
Yeah, we always push for, a lot of folks come to us and say, hey, I think that to solve my problem, I need the cost and the tracking number back in my system of record, my WMS. We're like, well, what about pickup date? Have you thought about, putting the pickup date in there so that you can help streamline the workflow? They're like, oh yeah, that's good too. And it's like, have you thought about a tracking link so that you can embed that in a customer email and you can send that to your customer for visibility to that? They're like, yeah, you know what? That sounds great as well. So you kind of, it's like they opened the door, but then you kind of open it a little bit wider to say, visibility does mean a lot of things to a lot of people. Have you had the conversation with the rest of the people in your organization to talk about what does visibility mean to you? Let's have that conversation and let's show you what can be done.
Exactly. And so, Mike, as warehouses continue to evolve, what should companies be doing now to future-proof operations when automation and the big buzzword digital transformation seem to be everywhere?
Well, I think we're talking about it, right? So moving forward, you need to understand if you're selecting the right tools and partnering with the right people. And how do you do that? So with the right tools, and I think what we're talking about is, there's always data around. Everyone has the data. You become more aware of where the opportunities for improvement are. But do you have the tools that are going to allow you to take advantage of those opportunities or to pivot when you need to? So identifying tools that are configurable, not hard coded to your current requirements during implementation. You need to be able to have a tool that is robust enough to change with your organization. So selecting the right tool is what you need. And preferably those configurable tools are self-service enabled. So you want to be able to do it yourself, bring down the cost of support, bring down the cost of change as you grow. And the other thing is, are you partnering with the right people? And what I mean by that is, hey, when the time comes to adapt and change and move forward, are the commercial models going to be in a place that prohibit you from moving forward or allowing you to change and adapt and grow? So, partner with people that have your interests in mind and tools that will enable you to change. That's what I would say about future-proofing an organization. One final note, I'd say security should be on top of everyone's mind. We saw Cloudflare this week. We saw AWS maybe a month ago, and a few weeks after that was Microsoft Azure going down. These softwares, if you don't have control, you want to bring that into your organization. Maybe find an organization that can kind of pivot with you and allow you to run your compute power where you want, whether it's on-prem, in some hybrid on the edge, or in the cloud as well. So having people that will flex with you is very important.
Definitely. And that's going to be a hot topic, I feel like, coming up very soon, especially as people have experienced a lot of different issues over the last few weeks. So, Ryan, what are 2 to 3 actionable steps that companies can take today to maximize the value that they're getting out of a WMS-TMS integration?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, right, and to your point, right, some folks adopt this technology and that they don't get the true value that they kind of started with, or that they expect, with that price point, or with everything that was involved in it. So it's really good to kind of always think about, how do we get the value out of this? I'll take a step back, because I feel like going into a project, like getting a WMS, connecting a TMS, going through that process, to me, starts with clean data, right? So understanding whether you're starting with spreadsheets, that's fine, and you need to port that over to a WMS to start to build your stack and build your process into something that's more efficient. Starting with clean data and doing that exercise, I believe, even before integrating everything, is really important. Clean data in, clean data out. That will save you time. It will help you articulate what your needs are to the vendors as you start talking to them. And I know for folks like myself and Mike, seeing clean data is great. It helps us work so much better with the clients and, articulate change, suggest things, change management, things like that. So clean data is a huge piece. Just sit down, spend some time, go through it, see what state you're in, and try to improve that before engaging. I think along the tail of that would be aligning your other departments, right? So we talk about silos. Part of the value is breaking down those silos. So to do that while you're going through this process is really important. Bring in folks from finance, bring in the executive team, bring in your managers, bring in your directors, bring on the boots, the boots on the ground, guy on the fork truck, bring them all together. Start to have conversations about what this initiative looks like, what you're trying to impact, and listen to them, right? A lot of times, I know we get into projects and we're talking at the manager, director, executive level, and then we move forward. There's assumptions. We talk to the boots on the ground and they want to make changes. And to Mike's point, you got to be flexible. Working with a provider that says, you know what, you're the guy that's actually doing this. Let me check with everyone that we've talked to, but let's make some adjustments to make your life easier. You are the end user. Needs to happen. But again, that alignment before you kind of go forward with a project, I think really helps people articulate the value to their company, articulate what they want for value back from the providers, and see that vision through. And then lastly, I always suggest to folks, don't have to boil the ocean, right? There's so many things probably at your company that you want to optimize, that you want to automate, that you want more efficient. Sit down through those conversations, record what you're talking about. There's so many tools to run those recordings and conversations through tools like AI, where it can kind of tell you like, hey, this is the diagram, this is the workflow, this is what you're doing today. And you can call out what is the biggest impact that we could change right now. Is it order automation? Is it reducing errors? What's costing us the most? What's most important to folks? And hone in on that and charge full speed at solving that problem, and then scale from there. So again, a lot of times when you have those conversations, there's so many things from different departments, really evaluating the biggest area of opportunity and then charging at that together and then expanding from there. So again, it's really around aligning the teams. It's around understanding that there's going to be change management. It's about clean data, and it's about targeting on those value items unified together and then proceeding.
So on that, Ryan, finally, is there anything upcoming new, product updates, initiatives from MyCarrier that you guys are excited about, that companies should be excited about, partners, clients?
Yeah, no, absolutely. First, we are super excited to host a webinar on the MyCarrier side for anyone to join. I'm going to be doing that with Mike, which I'm really excited about. That's going to be December 11th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So there'll be marketing going out on social media, and folks will be able to join that. Mike and I will be going through an actual live demo of the integration and the value that customers are getting out of a WMS and TMS integration. So folks will be able to see that live, which we're really excited about. And I think, MyCarrier as a company, we've grown so much and we've developed so much product in 2025. We're really pushing that as we go into 2026. We have a fantastic invoice hub feature that allows folks to automatically audit their freight invoices, reconcile those, get those back to a system of record for finance, and to help automate that other departments in the system like finance, as well as we have a brand new payments module that you can actually go ahead and pay your carriers directly out of our system, which has really been taking off and we're excited about and helping a lot of shippers. But those are really the main focus points, I think, for MyCarrier. So I hope everyone can join us on the webinar on December 11th.
Very cool. It sounds like you guys have a lot going on, and December 11th will be perfectly right at the tail end of peak season finally. So maybe, as shipping windows come to a close or some final, last minute gifts and things like that, people will be able to get some final insights out of that. So that wraps up today's discussion. Really big thank you to Mike Willie and Ryan Camacho for sharing insights, and thank you everyone for tuning in. And remember, Snap Fulfill and MyCarrier are hosting that webinar on December 11th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time for a much deeper dive, including a live demo of how the integration works in practice. You really won't want to miss it. So stay on, check out LinkedIn. You'll see links for signing up for the webinar from both Snap Fulfill and MyCarrier. And the recording for this session will be available on LinkedIn shortly after we wrap up. So follow us for future updates, webinars, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you very much.